we will continue the fight until the entire Sahel region is recovered, and we are striving to collaborate more with all the countries that are fighting today for their economic independence, because it is a form of imperialist oppression. Those who are oppressed should unite to face this hegemony.
History is unfolding in the heart of Africa. From Bamako to Ouagadougou, from Niamey to the villages of the Sahel, the winds of change are blowing strong. For the first time ever, 3 African nations, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, are preparing to formally withdraw from the International Criminal Court. Yes, you heard that right. Together as the Alliance of Sahel States, these countries are taking a bold step, a step that shakes the very foundations of the so-called global justice system. But why? Why would nations decide to walk away from an institution that claims to deliver justice to the oppressed? The answers lie in a history of bias, double standards, and a growing hunger for true independence. Stay with me, because this story is about more than just courts. It is about Africa reclaiming its voice. Earlier this week, in the city of Niamey, justice ministers from Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger sat down at the same table. Their mission? To prepare the coordinated exit from the ICC. This was not just a routine meeting. This was history in the making. These leaders announced that details of their withdrawal will soon be made public. Timelines, procedures, and the legal path forward. But make no mistake, this move is more than paperwork. It is a political earthquake. It is a declaration to the world that Africa will no longer bow to biased systems. It is a statement that justice cannot be outsourced to institutions that do not understand Africa's struggles, its pain, or its sovereignty. To understand the power of this decision, we must first understand what the ICC is. The International Criminal Court was created in 2002, headquartered in The Hague, Netherlands. Its mission: to prosecute crimes against humanity, war crimes and genocide, when national systems fail. On paper, it sounds noble. On paper, it sounds fair. But in practice, out of dozens of cases, more than 70% have targeted African leaders and African nations. Meanwhile, leaders from powerful countries, those responsible for wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, never see the inside of an ICC courtroom. So Africans ask, is this really a court for all humanity, or is it a court designed to discipline the weak while the strong walk free? For Mali, the decision is clear. Years of foreign military operations brought devastation, displacement, and civilian deaths. Yet where is the ICC to hold those powers accountable? Silence. For Burkina Faso, under the young and determined leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, this move is about sovereignty. He has said it again and again. Africa must build its own institutions, not rely on outsiders to define justice. For Niger, which has faced sanctions and political strangulation after the recent coup, the ICC's silence is deafening. Where is the accountability for those who weaponize economics against a struggling people? Nowhere. And so together, these 3 nations declare, enough is enough. Or as an African proverb reminds us, he who wears the shoe knows where it pinches. This decision is not without precedent. The African Union itself, back in 2017, openly called for a mass withdrawal from the ICC. Kenya, Uganda, and South Africa have all, at one time or another, threatened to leave. Why? Because of a long list of cases that targeted African leaders: Muammar Gaddafi, Laurent Gbagbo, Omar al-Bashir. Meanwhile, no Western head of state has ever been charged, despite wars that left millions dead. Why does justice seem to have only one address? Africa? That question has haunted the continent for decades. And now in the Sahel, the answer is being written with action. Niamey, the capital of Niger, was once a symbol of French influence in the Sahel. But today it has become the birthplace of a new African Declaration of Independence, this time in law. By meeting here, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger sent a message. We are not isolated. We are united as the Alliance of Sahel States. United not just in fighting terrorism, not just in defending our borders, but in redefining what it means to be sovereign. By withdrawing together, they are not simply leaving the ECC. They are leaving behind the shadow of dependency. They are saying to the world, Africa's dignity is not negotiable. So what happens next? In the short term, expect outrage. Western media will cry out, Africa abandoning justice. Aid groups may warn of sanctions, and critics will accuse the Sahel states of shielding their leaders. But in the long term, the consequences could be revolutionary. This move could breathe life into the African Court of Justice and Human Rights, a continental institution proposed by the African Union, but long ignored. Imagine an Africa where crimes against humanity are judged in Addis Ababa, in Abuja, or in Bamako. An Africa where no foreign power dictates the terms of justice. That is the possibility opening before us. The world is watching closely. In The Hague, in Paris, in Washington, even in Beijing and Moscow, they are asking, what does this mean for global order? For the first time, 3 African nations have stood together and said, we will no longer be judged by double standards. This is not isolationism, it is sovereignty. It is not weakness, it is courage. And make no mistake, this is only the beginning. Once a flame of freedom is lit, it spreads across the savannah. This is more than a withdrawal from a court. This is a revolution of dignity. It is Africa saying, loud and clear, justice must be fair, or it will not be recognized. The Sahel has spoken, and Africa is listening. The question now is, will the rest of the continent follow? What do you think? Should Africa build its own continental court of justice? Do you support the withdrawal of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger from the ICC? Tell us in the comments. Share this video so the world hears Africa's voice. And don't forget to subscribe because the story of Africa's rebirth is only
We will continue the fight until the entire Sahel region is recovered, and we are striving to collaborate more with all the countries that are fighting today for their economic independence, because it is a form of imperialist oppression. Those who are oppressed should unite to face this hegemony and have achieved some progress in this field. There are many agencies to be put in place. There are many aspects to be leveled in the 3 countries. Since, I believe you are aware, our economic levels vary. Militarily, there are many aspects. Balance is crucial, and therefore, it requires the implementation of many systems, many meetings, and free movement requires a certain number of factors to be combined. You should have noticed that we did a lot to have a unique security document for travel. So it is evolving and going very well. I think it was them who have contributed to reducing their own influence, because they have a paternalistic conception of our relation. When you look at everything we do, every initiative we take, it's associated with Russia. And some might say they are influenced by Russia. Everything that happened is because of Russia. Why do they have closed eyes like that? Africa is not capable of developing anything, inventing, innovating, or taking initiatives. That's what we are fighting against. And take a look at their statements. Those of the French President, Emmanuel Macron, for example. He is always saying young Africans are influenced by Russia and Western media. All they do is lie. And speaking of AES, Alliance of Sahel States, which is a model of emerging structure, they can't spend their day without mentioning Burkina or AES. They cannot but talk about it. And every time they seek to use this information to manipulate the youth, but it no longer works. I think people are quite aware. They manage to distort history by using this rhetoric. Including the history of Africa, they could pass off lies as the truth, leading to some young Africans not knowing Africa's history. What has Africa done? Some don't even know that our grandparents fought, being used as cannon fodder, and in return killed like animals. Few people know that when France experimented with its first atomic bomb, it was black soldiers who were placed in the lethal radius to see what effect it had. It's all in the archives. Everything they used against Africa is terrible. So there is all this that must be communicated for young Africans for them to learn it. Because there are still many in the dark who continue to support the imperialists, believing what they say and do. Africa must learn its history. Wake up. This is what we also fight for. My biggest regret is having spent a good part of my youth listening to radios like RFI, France 24. I've been living in countries where these radios were the only one. We would use the programs, record their news to listen to, but after a while, there was a click. I began to understand that they brainwash us to accept what they want. It's their narrative they want us to learn. Since then, I've become more aware of this, and I've understood that what they do is very dangerous. And today, more than ever, I realize that they have especially manipulated the minds of Africans, and you can play a significant role in waking young people's consciousness, helping them understand how the world works, and preventing them from falling into the trap of those narratives.
Thank you, Africa. Mama Africa, you make Africa great. Thank you, freedom. Thank you, Africa. Thank you, Africa. Mama Africa. You make Africa great. Thank you, Africa.